Okay. Good afternoon, Dr. Armstrong, and thank you again for conducting this interview with me. I'm just going to ask you a few questions and then I'll be on my way.
Okay.
Okay, so my first question is, where did you attend school?
Well,
College.
Okay. I attended Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. And then when I graduated from there, I went to a doctoral program in clinical psychology at UNC Chapel Hill.
Wow.
And when I finished there, I did a postdoctoral fellowship and ended up going back to school to pursue my Master of Theological Studies at Duke Divinity School.
Wow. So how did you become interested in psychology?
I think I've always been interested in understanding people's thoughts and feelings and behaviors and also their relationships. And so I can't really remember a time when I wasn't interested in psychology. But when I was 12, I took the SAT for the Duke TIP program. And I had to indicate there what my majors would be, even though I obviously wasn't going to college. And I put child psychology and music, which ended up being my majors at Yale. So it's been in there in me for a long time.
Wow, so you've always wanted to be a psychologist?
Yes.
Basically. Okay. So, what do you like most about your job?
I like the flexibility and the versatility. So I'm able to meet such a range of people of all ages. I work with children, adolescents, adults, couples, and families. And each case has its own challenges and opportunities. And then even within each case, you never know what will have happened from one week to the next. So there's always something new and exciting going on with my cases, but my job is also versatile because I have the opportunity to not only conduct therapy, but to do psychological testing. I do some consultation, lots of workshops, and as a business owner, I end up having to do more administrative functions as well.
Okay. So, do you also work with the church as well?
I do.
And what do you do for the church?
I provide some counseling for the church, which is a part of what I do here, and then I also have an administrative role there. So we have 2 other licensed mental health professionals and an intern. So I help to supervise them clinically, make sure that those persons who are seeking help through our ministry get directed into the best fit for them, and also make sure that we are continuing to learn new things in terms of doing didactic sessions, case consultation, and also keeping a focus on self-care.
Okay. Well, I asked you about your likes, but do you have any dislikes about your job?
Sometimes it's difficult to see that people have waited for such a long time to receive help, and I understand that stigma can be strong, especially for African Americans. But sometimes you see someone who has really disintegrated to the point where they have very few options for care, whereas you feel like if you had seen them 3, 5, 10 years earlier, because a lot of our mental health challenges go on for decades, but you feel like if they had had earlier intervention, then you would be able to give them more options and they would have more freedom versus, for example, having to go to an inpatient setting.
Right. So how would you encourage somebody to get help?
Well, sometimes, especially at the church, we find that we have to be pretty creative about getting people to come in and talk. And sometimes people have all kinds of misconceptions about what therapy and counseling are.
Right.
And that they'll be judged as crazy
Right.
or, sharing their dirty laundry. And so sometimes if you can help people to see that the services are really about them sharing, talking with a trusted confidant, and if you can kind of lower their guard with that, then they'll be more comfortable in returning. So sometimes you don't start by saying, okay, well, this is going to be a therapy session versus let's have a conversation. And sometimes you can help people to get to know you in informal settings, and then they're more likely to seek you out for formal counseling later.
Okay. So what are some of your responsibilities as a clinical psychologist?
Well, I have to make sure that when we have someone who's interested in services, Our office makes sure that they are able to describe what their presenting problem is so that we can meet them where they are clinically. We have to make sure that from a payment standpoint that we either have their insurance and we verify their benefits,
Right.
or we make arrangements for self-pay. We have to make sure that the interventions that we're offering to people are effective, that there is some kind of either empirical research or experience clinically out of our seasons of experience to say that this is probably going to help this person or this couple or this family. So those are a lot of the clinical issues that come up. And sometimes the clinical issues have to do with, for example, someone who has depression. You already know that one of the symptoms of depression is low motivation.
Right.
And yet you're trying to get someone to be motivated to try some new things. And so sometimes you have to be very creative in thinking about, how do I really motivate this person? And so that requires a tailored approach to each case.
Right. Okay. So you went straight through school. Well, you got your bachelor's and then you master's and then your doctorate, right?
Right. I was accepted into a doctoral program. Several of my colleagues did not get their master's along the way, but we all had a paper to write at the end of our second year.
Okay.
And it was just a matter of reformatting the paper and submitting it to the grad school to get the master's. So.
Wow. Okay. So how long after you received your degree did you get your own practice?
I finished at Carolina in 1998. I started doing clinical work to get my supervised clinical hours, which took me, I was doing a postdoc that was part research and part clinical, so it took me a little extra time to get all of my clinical hours. But once I got those hours, I was able to get my license in June of 2001, and I started working in a group practice in the fall of that year.
Did you intern anywhere when you were getting your bachelor's?
I did not, but, well, I guess technically it wasn't considered an internship, but I did have a summer opportunity where between my junior and senior years, I worked in a research lab at Carolina, and
Wow.
I was able to do that for most of the summer.
And
it was in developmental psychology.
how was that? Did you enjoy that?
It was very informative. It really helped me to see the day-by-day activities of a developmental psychologist. And at that time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do developmental or clinical. But by the end of the summer, I was clear that I did not want to do developmental. But I didn't have a bad summer. It was just clarifying for me that I was much more interested in sort of looking at helping people with their challenges.
Understandable. So what's the most rewarding part about being a clinical psychologist?
Having people, whether they are finished with therapy or they're just in the midst of therapy, but people to come and say that, you have really made a difference in my life and I can see the progress and my family can see the progress. Or when I come here, by the end, I feel like I have hope again.
Wow.
When people just give you that kind of feedback, it lets you know that what you're doing is not in vain.
Wow. Okay. So thank you so much again, and I appreciate you.